Hey everybody, look, it's Blaha again. All right, we're gonna do another video on Jason Blaha, man. Another reaction video because I don't know, love making reaction videos to the gym, lifting, recruiting, fitness gear slave himself, Jason Blaha. Wow, he's looking older and older all the time, isn't he? Much more mature. He's looking like a mature fine wine. Yes, a very old fine wine. Anyways, we're gonna react to this video. Jason Blaha says compound movements followed by isolation work is needed for maximum gains. They are they? Okay.
Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys and gals a little bit about the fact that we need both big exercises and small exercises, compounds and isolations.
Oh, Coffee Talk is live. I'm gonna miss that, darn. Might even switch over there and check it out. Maybe we should go over there and see this coffee chat live. Blaha's coffee chat. Well, he's live, bro. He's live. Let's see what he says here.
A lot of my weekend work, it could be conflict with client stuff and those things. So I like to get calls and things in a lot of times on the weekends. So yeah.
Coffee chat live.
It's kind of funny. I used to do 4, and then I switched to 5, then 6, and I got used to the 6, and I was like, oh, it's nice to cut back to 5. I think that's closer to a sweet spot for me in terms of my training. All right, that 6 stages, it seemed like it caused almost certain areas to overtrain.
Overtraining.
And I was like, oh, it's nice. All right, hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, just sitting here.
Yeah.
And see what we get in here this morning. It is a weekend conflict with client stuff and those things. So I like to get calls and things in.
Client?
It seemed like it caused almost certain areas to overtrain.
Yes, he's got some clients. Anyways, let's go back to his video. I don't want to stay here all day, but anyways, yeah, where was that video?
Big exercises and small exercises, compounds and isolations, if we actually want to be truly big and jacked. And again, a lot of people will argue this stuff, and it's amazing.
Truly want to be big and jacked, and most people will argue what? Compound followed by isolation is not going to get you big and jacked. It's going to get you big and fat.
How many people will throw away tradition, throw away what has worked for generations?
What tradition? You don't even know. You can't even go that far back. You can only go as far as back as the steroid people, the steroid era. If you go any further back, you just have a bunch of skinny people on stage. Okay, that's what you have. Go back and you'll see what these people look like. Even what's his name? James Bond, Mr. Bond over there, Sean Connery. Even he competed in bodybuilding. Look at his body. Did you see what he looked like? Christ, come on.
It's both in the real world, later in the lab, and it blows my mind. It absolutely blows my mind that people still are.
They didn't know what built muscle. You understand me? They hacked at it, but they didn't understand the concept of what builds muscle. Damage does. And the majority of people all run away from damage. Go to every channel on YouTube, RX Muscle and everybody, and anytime they ever talk about DOMS, they say DOMS has nothing to do with muscle growth, yada yada. That's just an indicator something was damaged in the muscle. That's all it means. You feel this pain called DOMS. It lasts for a couple of days. So, honestly, it's like they downplay the whole getting damaged part. You shouldn't get damaged. Don't get damaged, just be a lifting slave. See what I mean? It's ridiculous. Muscles will not grow if they are not damaged. It's really simple. And so people are comfortable lifting slaves concentrically. They're comfortable lifting concentrically because concentric exercises do not damage muscles.
You against this because and no one is saying you can't gain muscle with just one or the other. You can.
Why do you think everybody's failing and crying and everything? They have to do all these fake things to fake it. Creatine, terkestrons, protein powders, weight gainers, bulk diets, weight gainers, powders, creatines, I don't know, terkestrons, GO2 max, amino acids. Well, they work amino acids. but they don't just build muscles because you lift it concentrically. Steroids, SARMs, modulators, peptides, and everything that's in the bucket, bro. And then you got these like Clomide, and then HCG, HGH, yada yada.
But there's a few things.
Man, they're even injecting insulin. They're so desperate to look the part. They're even injecting insulin, which is even really astronomically crazy when you think about it. Why would you inject insulin? That's just nuts.
To think about, guys. When you look at how the old school bodybuilders trained before they had access to all the drugs.
Well, the old school bodybuilders, how they trained before they had access to drugs? The old school bodybuilders were on drugs. What do you mean before they had access to drugs? Which old school bodybuilders? I just told you what those ones look like before drugs. They all look like Sean Connery standing on the stage, skinny. Have you seen those people? Yeah, small and skinny and weak.
Right? Before they had access to all the drugs, what did you see? It was always big compounds followed by isolation work. Right? Heavy work.
I didn't see that from those people. They just exercised. That's what they did in those days. In those days, they did heavier compounds and all that when they started taking steroids because it increases your performance to lift a heavy weight. It's a drug.
Followed by pump work. And it worked. It worked. Lots of protein.
I like that one. It followed by pump work. Lots of protein. Well, yeah, lots of protein. They ate a lot of raw animal products back then. People, even way back, if you go further back, they had a lot of raw animal products. We were eating less and less raw animal products to this day. See what I mean? You're eating less and less of it.
Lots of food, and they got big, they got jacked, they had good physiques. It worked. It worked for.
They did not get big and jacked and had physiques, okay? Only the steroid people did after, because I told you, concentric exercise does not build muscles. That's what people discovered. That's why they start taking steroids.
Generations. You go back and look at the 40s, the 50s, the 60s. They all train this way. Okay?
And steroids exude a cosmetic look. It looks good cosmetically. Yeah.
How'd they build big chests and triceps? Well, they did bench pressing. They did incline pressing. Then they do dumbbells. They do flies. They do extensions. They do dips, right? But they would do the small stuff too.
So let me get this straight. So the concentric exercises failed them, right? It didn't work for them. And then they complain about genetic limits, newbie gain limits, hard gainer, blah, 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 blah. And then they go, okay, so we started taking the steroids. So then they start taking the steroids, right? And then they continue in that behavior, lifting concentrically. And then when they go off the juice, all the gains go away. The fake gains go away because concentric exercise does not damage muscles and does not grow muscles. And so what did they gain? Nothing. That's why it's artificial. The gains from steroids they got was artificial because it went away. It was water weight. It wasn't myofibrillar growth. It was sarcoplasmic growth. It's kind of a type of shitty growth. See what I mean? A shitty type of growth. For, let's just say, glycogen in their muscle. That's what they were holding, an energy source, because really steroids are used for wasting, not wasting away. They give it to fucking AIDS patients and people that are anemic in hospitals or wasting away in a hospital or something, surgery, a coma or some shit. They give them steroids. So they don't waste away. But it's used for many purposes. It's used to enhance performance, they discovered. Of course, in sports, people cheat. It's used for cosmetic looks. It gives you a cosmetic look. It's used for wasting away. So that weight you're getting is really because it's preventing you from wasting away. That's about it.
How'd those guys get big lats and big arms? Well, they would do pull-ups and chin-ups, but then they would do curls. They do curls with barbells. They do curls with dumbbells.
Yeah, okay.
Right? They would work different angles. They worked different angles. Big work followed by small work. Over and over and over and over. It worked.
Yes, failing over and over and over and over. So they gotta fake it to make it. See what I mean? Fake it to make it.
Forever. And when people deviated from it, they didn't get as good a result.
Think about why are they cycling these steroids? Why are they cruising and blasting? Why do you have to cruise and blast on a steroid? Because they're maintaining these phony gains. The fake look, that fake cosmetic look, they're trying to maintain it as they cruise and blast, because if they were to cease using it, to stop using it, it would all go away. That's why.
I'm not saying people didn't try, but people need to understand, people figured out in gyms back then what worked because
The artificial strength that they get from steroids and that look goes away when you stop taking the drug.
like, man, the guys who get bigger faster, this is what they do. And the guys who do something else, they don't get as big as quick. They have lagging muscles more easily. They're not getting the same results. And they didn't have tons of guys on lots of drugs to change it. In other words, since people weren't really able to get around bad training by just upping the dose, bro, you couldn't use that. So today we see that. We see people who get pretty good results doing horrific methods or other methods because of the drugs, and they can use plenty of them, and they get results, particularly if they've got good genetics.
They get fake results. It's cosmetic. What is this good genetics? You're injecting a molecule in your body, okay? It is just doing something temporarily, binding with receptors. It is binding with receptors in your body, a type of hormone that you're injecting, which your body doesn't create. It's coming from a plant, and it's causing a cosmetic look temporarily, providing you inject it.
So we see that.
Has nothing to do with genetics.
They didn't have that back then. So it was kind of a self-selecting process. People figured out what worked pretty effectively.
They didn't figure out what worked, because if they did, then they would have looked the part. They didn't.
And that's what we saw. That's what we saw. And it worked.
We saw nothing. Let me see. Let's see what we saw. Sean Connery on
Sean Connery on stage posing bodybuilding.
Here he is, Sean Connery posing with his buddies. See what he looked like.
Not even that long ago, back in the 50s, most people probably don't know this, but actually Sean Connery started out as a bodybuilder. And this was him at his bodybuilding peak. Again, this is a natural body. This is what natural bodybuilding looked like. You can take a look at this is the Mr. Universe.
There you go. That's what it looked like. Mr. Universe. That's what natural bodybuilding looked like back then. You see that?
This is the lineup for the Mr. Universe. And I mean, you look at the bodies, and these are not, I mean, again, this is like peak human development in the 50s and stuff. Again, it's nothing like modern bodybuilding at all. It's nothing even approaching that. And it's certainly nothing like the Liver King and what he looks like. Not even.
See what I mean? These photos, they're fake. This guy with the abs, this picture, it's altered. They altered these photos. That's all. People playing with your mind. All you people are nuts. That's the problem. So let me go back here. I don't want to watch this shit, man. It's garbage. Here he is. See? Peak performance. There you go. That's bodybuilding for you. That's what it was. Go back to Blaha with his stupidity.
That's what we saw.
Yes.
And it worked.
That's what we saw. Did it look like it worked for them? That's what we saw. Did it work for those guys? Sean Connery and all of them. Did it work for them?
Then we move forward to the lab today. What do we find? Most studies. Doing a big compound followed by an isolation builds more muscle than doing just the compound or the isolation. It also builds more muscle.
Yeah. How did it work out for those guys? It must have built all that muscle for them, eh? All those compounds and isolations. Sure, yeah.
Than doing the isolation than the compound.
Oh, yeah.
People want to try to do that silly stuff.
Yeah.
That has never worked for people not on a bunch of drugs. The only people who ever used the pre-exhaustion type idea successfully were on large doses of drugs.
Yeah, oh, okay.
In the lab, it has never been successful. It has always produced less muscle growth. In the real world,
Steroids do not produce muscle growth. They do not grow muscles. They aid in synthesizing protein. They can aid in some things, but they themselves do not build muscles. And they are not the stimulus for building muscles. The stimulus for building muscles is damage. Without that damage, there's nothing going on there. Nothing will happen.
More guys were using gear. It produced less muscle growth. They figured that out really fast. Like, you don't want to do.
Oh, using gear, it'll produce less. We do this gear thing, and produce much less muscle growth. What produced less muscle growth? What did? What? They're not building any muscle.
Curls before you do rows or pull-ups. It doesn't work too well. You end up gaining less total muscle, and that's again what we found in the lab.
They didn't gain any muscle. They gained glycogen in their muscle. That's what they gained. Okay, that's why it goes away so quickly. I knew people in the gym back in the day, Gold's Gym and everything. We're talking 80s and 90s. They were going in there. They were taking D-ball. They were popping them like candy. And they came in. They gained 30 pounds. And then when he stopped popping the pills, as soon as he stopped popping the pills, it went away faster than what it took to put on. It took a while to put on that 30 pounds. And then it went away within 2 weeks. 2 weeks, he literally peed it out. This guy was standing there talking, and he goes, shit. Within 2 weeks, it was all gone, the 30 pounds. So where did it go? What was 30 pounds? What was that 30 pounds? Saying that was muscle? Blah's a fool.
And I mean,
Where's Blaha's muscles? He's on steroids, isn't he? He says he's on Primo and Test. So where is all his muscle?
again, the example, take the triceps. Okay? Take the triceps.
Man, he looks just as bad as this guy, what is it, Longevity. And Blaha's 47. And Longevity 60. My God. You can compare the two. They look really bad. Wait till Blaha turns 60. I can't wait to see what he looks like at 60. Jesus. That's a long way away for Blaha, but wow. Can you imagine Blaha at 60? If this is what Blaha looks at 47, my God, at 60, he's gone.
A tricep extension, a leg extension was compared with bench press. What they find? They found this well over a decade ago. What happened? Well, the tricep lateral head grew the most from the bench, right? Fair enough. The tricep long head, the longer head grew from the isolation movement better. Lo and behold.
It grew better? It didn't grow better. It just filled up with some glycogen. That's it.
When they did both, the whole tricep grew more than if you did just one or the other.
Yeah, the more carbs they ate, the more they pumped, the more it grew. That's all. That's what happens. If you grab a 100-pound bag of potatoes, I guarantee you trigger this trigger a little bit, just a little bit of damage. Just once a week, just trigger a little bit. And I guarantee you, that glycogen synthesis will be extended for the entire week. So you can load this glycogen like crazy in your muscles. That sarcoplasm will expand, man, massively. I guarantee you, 3, 4, 5 weeks, you'll gain like 20, 30 pounds of sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. You're going to look like some dude on steroids.
This was consistent. Wow, it's almost like some of the compounds and some of the isolations bias different parts of the muscle a little bit. Again, making the case for both. The big compounds build your overall
He's making this stuff up.
size. They're going to put the overall mass on you efficiently. Then isolation work will fill in the gaps and it will fill in the weak links. Right? That's
Yes, the isolation work will fill in the gaps, fill in the, yes, okay. Uh-huh.
the idea. It says work forever. It works in the lab.
Yeah.
Same thing for hitting a few different
Worked in the lab? It'll work. Yeah, sure, lab.
angles. And this is why two people are like, well, I mean, how is the bicep going to be more recruited than with a chin up? Well, glad you asked that. Bodybuilders figured out a long time ago if they do multiple angles, they gain more muscle. Well, what do you think's been found in a few studies?
If bodybuilders found out, these fake bodybuilders, if they do what? More angles, they get more muscle growth? You know what they discovered? Those bodybuilders that weren't taking the steroids? Before they took the steroids, those angles didn't work, get it? There was no muscle growth. That's why they took the steroids. Yeah.
Data. The same sort of stuff has been found that showed these bodybuilders are right. And I'm not saying modern exercise science and hypertrophy is the be-all end-all because the studies are pretty bad. But when the studies consistently match what the anecdote's been showing for 50 years, 60 years, 70 years.
Yes. What about it? What's 60, 70 years? What anecdotal? What are you talking about?
I think we're onto something.
What are you on to? That you faked it to make it? All of them faked it?
Okay? Just saying, if you go back 60 or 70 years and it worked really well in the real world before all the
Yeah, did you see what I just showed you 60 to 70 years ago? I just showed you what worked there. Nothing. It was James Bond, okay? Sean Connery with all the rest of these people at the Mr. Universe. That's what they looked like. Those were natural bodies back then, natural lifting bodies, because they were lifting concentrically. They didn't understand the concept. Nobody understands the concept of eccentric exercise. And so it continued in that behavior. It's continued for decades. They forego the damage because they think it's a bad sign. It's a bad thing to get damaged. So they don't damage their muscles, therefore they don't grow. That's what they discovered. And then they found out about these drugs. They started taking these drugs. They pumped them. They get pumped up from the drugs. They start marketing it. They tell you, oh, look, we built these muscles. Nobody else looks like that going to gyms, but only these guys do, these so-called bodybuilders. See what I mean? Think about it. All of a sudden, you see these people come out. They have these physiques. They're pumped out. Like it looks very artificial, very cosmetic, artificial. And no other natural person looks like that in a gym, nowhere in the street or anywhere. Just these guys in this magazine and these guys that compete in this thing called a Mr. Olympia, Mr. Universe, these contests. They come out and they all look like that. It's kind of obvious, it's fake. Even when I was a kid, I knew it was fake. You understand me? I knew they were doing something fake because I was like, nobody could look like that. Nobody looks like that natural walking around. Nobody who trains at gyms, nothing. See what I mean? It was fake.
drugs, then the lab shows it works better.
And believe me, I 100% knew it wasn't Weider's products, because I remember back in the 80s and 90s, there on the shelf it said all these there was all these Weider products. Because, as GNC came along in the 90s or whatever, they started selling their products, whatever, start coming out. Constantly, they were pushing these things that would make you believe that this product would create this steroid-like effect in your body, would look like that. They would push these stupid supplements. It was crazy, man. People would run and buy them like crazy. They were insane. See what I mean? Think about it. You do concentric exercise, so you take creatine, right? And then the creatine, you do the same exercise, which does not build muscles. There's no damage. And then you gain 5 pounds of water from the creatine. 5 pounds of water. But science tells you that creatine will help augment the satellite cells when they're activated with what? Eccentric exercise, damage. If there's damage, then creatine can actually have a synergistic effect in creating more of these, augmenting these satellite cells, getting more of them, so you can have more growth in that one session. See what I mean? But concentrically, it doesn't do anything. It just pumps water in your muscles because you're squeezing, ass cheek squeezing. You're squeezing glycogen in the muscle concentrically. That's called pump training. The pump.
I think we're onto something.
Yes, you're onto something.
I think it might be a good
We're onto something. We squeeze and then we get pumped.
strategy. At that point, I think it's fair to say that.
Yes.
Proved in the pre-drug era,
Yes.
then shown to be the case in the lab. That's a win. You should consider doing whatever that was. In this case, multiple exercises. When it's been studied, if you do 10 or 12 sets with only one exercise in a given muscle, the muscle growth tends to be slightly less than if you split that volume up over 2 or 3 exercises. So yeah, one exercise is never going to give you 100%. And it makes sense because there's going to be certain muscle fibers, certain joint angles, certain heads that are not getting full activation out of that one movement pattern. So yes, even if you're doing heavy shins, and heavy shins can help with your biceps, no one's saying they can't, you should probably do some type of curl also. I'll go so far as to say, if you're like me and you have really struggled with biceps, you should probably do a couple different types of curls, maybe more than a couple. You might need several different types just to make sure that you work every part of the muscle. Same thing with the chest. Sure, bench press works great for the chest if you perform it correctly. Some people are like, no, it's not. No, it's wonderful. It's been repeatedly demonstrated too.
Yeah. It works great when you're getting adaptations. That's when it's working great. I mean, of course, again, if you want to get neurological adaptations where you're adapted and now you're getting adaptations neurologically lifting, yeah, yeah, you could do that. You could come in every single day. I've seen people come in twice a day to a gym lifting so they can get more neurological adaptations, getting good at lifting against gravity in the opposite direction. But they'll never get strong eccentrically because if that weight comes crashing down, boom, their arms are going to rip off. Then they're going to have to go to the hospital to get them reattached.
If you know how to do a bench. But you know what? Your chest is going to be even better if you add some incline barbells or dumbbells. Might even be better still if you throw in some weighted dips or a cambered bar or some decline or some dumbbell presses, right? To get another deep stretch, working at a slightly different angle. Can go a long way, right? Same thing, you see me over here doing some pretty complicated bicep work. Why? The bicep has 3 functions. My biceps need more work. They're probably my worst muscle group. You know, there's a point where you look at that and go, you know, I should probably be doing several different things for that muscle if I want it to grow. And we need to progressively overload all of it. Progressively.
Yeah, you need to be doing something for those arms and whatever to grow and everything. I like Blaha. You need to progressively overload it. Yeah, concentrically, right? You need to progressively overload it concentrically, which does not damage and does not grow muscles.
Overload all of it.
Yeah.
But yes, big compounds followed by isolation work is
Yes, big compound movements is concentrically, followed by isolation. Yes, yes.
a time-proven method of getting jacked.
Yes, a time-proven method for getting jacked. That's why they took steroids, because it didn't jack them.
For someone who's drug-free. Okay? It's time-proven method.
Oh, it's time-proven for somebody that's drug-free. That's why they take drugs later, because they didn't get jacked doing that.
Train them
Of
hard.
course, maybe they ate a lot of carbohydrates, or they bulked and got jacked getting fat.
Train them correctly. Pick good exercises.
Uh-huh.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Then you should be good to go. You'll get results.
Yeah.
All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I
Yeah, you'll get results, yeah.
hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.
Next time, broski. I'll see you next time, broski. See you in the next video. This is funny, man. Law is ridiculous.